Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me today. I'm Alan Barry Labucan. I'm the founder and host of the Alan Barry Reports. I have a special show today set up. Last week, that's coming from my audio. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. I was having a little bit of technical difficulty, but now I got it figured out. We'll get all started here again. So last week we had John Kaiser on the show, and John kindly spent about an hour explaining to us a lot about what's going on down in Australia with the Aussie 2.0 gold rush. And one of the leading players in that gold rush is Novo Resources. We had a good chat about that. And today I have their partner, David Lenigas, who's one of the leaders of Artemis. And Artemis is partnered up with Novo on a good chunk of ground there. So I'm glad to thank David for coming on the show today. David, thank you.
Yeah, good morning. Well, good morning, good afternoon, Alan. So
well,
I'm in France at the moment. So
it's morning and afternoon somewhere, David, so we'll go with that. Thanks a lot. And so let's get right into it, David. In the last few months, the Aussie gold rush has sort of taken the gold business by storm due to this new discovery of a large, thick conglomerate bed with these high-grade nuggets in it. And you guys are well positioned. So why don't you tell my audience about how well positioned you are in this play, David?
Well, it's not about being positioned. I mean, Novo has been working at Beatons Creek for many years, looking at the whole concept of conglomerate golds, and we're having moderate success. And it was early this year, and I only joined the board last year as chairman to sort of restructure Artemis and try and move it forward, with quite an interesting, diverse asset base up at Karratha. And in about January, February, a local prospector flew in on a helicopter and said, look, over the hill here, we're working in Silica Hills at the time, which is a high-grade shear zone gold system, and flew in and saw Ed Mead, who's our chief geologist director, and said, look, can I put a special prospecting license over your ground? There's a whole lot of prospectors seeing metal detectors and finding a lot of nuggets. So Ed immediately drove around and found 50 people sitting there swinging metal detectors with the beginning of this watermelon seed nugget scenario. And Ed rang me up and said, look, what do you want to do? I said, no, I'm not in the business of giving away land. My job is to sort of build the asset base with what we've got. And we started a lot of geology 101 work, try and work out where these nuggets were coming from. And right from the get-go, Ed Mead and our senior geologist, Alan Younger, said, look, this looks pretty similar to what Novo's been playing with at Beatons Creek. So we did quite a lot of work. We put out 2 news releases and said, look, we found Fitzwater's Rand-style conglomerates very similar to Beatons Creek. But nobody in the Australian market took any notice whatsoever. And then Quentin contacted Ed Mead by email and said, look, because it was a common person called Alan Ronk who was working up at Beatons Creek, we brought Alan in to have a look at what we were doing and have a look at the similarities of the geology at Purdy's Reward to what Quentin was playing with at Beatons Creek. And the rest is history. So Quentin contacted Ed. It lasted about a couple of weeks. I thought, you know what? Ed said doesn't work. Whatever we say in the Australian Stock Exchange, nobody cares. So I rang Quentin. He was in Denver at the time. And said, Quentin, you're interested in this block. What do we want to do? He said, well, I'd like to earn into your property. And I said, you know what? I've been involved in the mining business and corporate business all over the world. Why don't we do it 50-50? No 49-51s, straight up 50-50. What would you propose? And the whole scenario sort of worked itself out over a week or two. And we signed the deal, and then we brought Novo into our equation.
And that's on,
very exciting for them.
that's on their Purdy's reward claim,
No,
correct?
what I said to Quentin, what I said to Quentin was, I said, look, this thing could be quite pervasive. So why don't we do it for conglomerate gold over our entire land package?
Oh.
Yeah, the package that we're allowed to.
So I'm on your website right now. I'm on your website, David, and playing on the screen for our viewers is your recent presentation. And I've got the claim maps, and I see all those claims in blue. Purdy's reward is sort of in the center. All those claims in blue are part of the 50-50 joint venture?
With the exception of Money at this stage, which is the biggest platinum deposit, JORC compliant platinum deposit in Australia.
And that's down to the south, that's in your southwestern set of claims there. Yeah. And it's in yellow.
Yeah, it's about 10 kilometres from the Radio Hill plant.
Now, in addition to those claim blocks, Novo has a bunch of their own ground. Where is that in relation to Purdy's reward? Sorry.
Let me fill you in on the history first. I think that's important, right?
Perfect.
So I said to Quentin, I said, look, one of the biggest issues that most people have in the Karratha area is getting native title and approved concessions. That's a very difficult, long, lengthy process. So I said, look, what Artemis has done over the last 10 years has put into place all of its native title agreements. We have native title access. We have approved licenses for most of them. In fact, I think all of them now. And I said, we can fast track sort of an exploration effort because we've already gone through the pain over the last decade of getting everything approved from the state government, from the Aboriginal heritage claim scenario, and a lot of the native title issues have been resolved. So I said, we can fast track a lot of what you've got to do. Now, over that period of discussion, Quentin decided, in his wisdom, it's probably very smart, as he went and picked every square inch for about 7,500 kilometres, very quietly, of exploration licence applications. Okay. Now, it means that nobody else can get in there, but it still opens the whole thing up to how long is it going to take him to get licenses, ELAs approved, and all those sorts of things.
Novo staked that ground, and they're awaiting the licenses of that they've acquired them. Then they have to get permits. Is that correct? After that, plus they've got to do all the Aboriginal work as well, right?
Oh, no, okay. For all your visitors visiting in on this interview, this is the way it works in Western Australia. You apply for an exploration licence. That's done electronically through the Mines Department, through various websites. Okay. Before that exploration licence application can get approved, you must have your native title agreement sorted with the native title people within respect to the areas. Now, most of that area is a group called Nalama, which are very sophisticated, very well educated, and very well funded Aboriginal group, because they get a lot of royalties from Rio Tinto and from BHP, from the iron ore, and a lot of royalties with respect to the onshore and offshore oil and gas. So they're very educated people. So they have to now negotiate a native title agreement with the Aboriginal group Nalama. Now, from Artemis's perspective, and this is before my time because I only joined the board as chairman back in November, from Artemis's perspective, it took a couple of years to do that. Mm-hmm. Now, until you actually get your native title agreement in place, the Mines Department will not grant approval for your application. So you go to the Mines Department, here's my application, I've been paying my fees annually, here is my native title agreement, and then within a couple of weeks after you get your native title agreement, they will then grant you an approved exploration licence. Now, before you can do any more work from there, What you then need is an Aboriginal site survey where they bring in anthropologists and a whole lot of people.
You know, this is very similar to everything we do up in Canada. I have a lot of experience, and that's where I'm from, is Canada. I now live in Mexico, but it's the same process you're talking about. So a lot of my viewers understand what you're talking about.
Right, and then once you've got your site survey done, and that could take anything from 2 months to 4 months, because they treat it very carefully, and very respectfully, the Aboriginal group up there. They want to look at all the native title sites, burial grounds, sacred areas, and all that sort of stuff, and they walk every square inch. And once you've got that, then you can apply to the mines department for what they call a program of works. So until you've got your program of works approved, and that could take, once you put your application in, anything from 8 weeks to 14 weeks, depends how busy the mines department is, you're not allowed to do any ground disturbing activities. Now, what we call ground disturbing activities is roads, tracks, drill holes, trenches, or anything that disturbs the soil.
Oh, so even soil
you can
sampling.
walk over it and that's it.
Even soil sampling.
You can possibly get away with soil geochemistry.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I see.
But the mines department.
So it sounds like they've got a bit of an adventure ahead of them to get to the point where they can drill their own ground. They're 100% ground.
Look, they'll get through it, Alan. There's a process.
Yep.
And it's quite a defined process.
Yep.
But it doesn't happen quickly.
Okay.
So what I said to Glenn was, I said, look, we've already got everything approved. So we've got a package of 1,500 square kilometres. There's 2 or 3 areas that are excised because we're still working out waivers, because we've got specific joint ventures in them, and we're working through that process. But I said, look, we can start right now on places like Purdy's Reward. Now, Comet Well, which is next to Purdy's Reward, is still an ELA, Exploration Licence Application.
Okay.
Now, I would like them to get that approved very quickly, because then that gives the whole trend right through Comet Well, right up through Purdy's Reward, right up through the Harding Dam, and it makes the play bigger from a global exploration effort. Now, of course, Artemis doesn't have any interest in Comet Well, with the exception that we have 4 million Novo shares. So we'd like
okay.
to go with that.
4 million shares is a pretty good holding these days.
Yeah. So that was really sort of how it all came together. And then, over a period of a couple of months, we finalised all the agreements. And, Novo's now on the ground, and it's looking very, very exciting.
Okay, now that's what I really wanted to get. That's really what I wanted to get into the most today, David, is the recent news. So, they had news out. This is on the 50-50 ground. What impressed me about the news is, David, I've had a lot of experience in diamonds, and I've likened this to a sort of a kimberlite dike, a flat-lying, sort of shallow dipping dike. I know it's not the same situation, but in my mind, I'm looking at that, and there's a couple things that I was interested in. First of all, obviously, how thick is that package of rock? Second thing was, in diamonds, in a sheet like that, often what you would find is the diamonds will settle to the bottom. And so the recent news that I saw, those were the things that kind of got my attention. What really excites me about the overall project is that initially when I heard comparisons to WITS 1.0, I was kind of skeptical. Obviously, you would think if you knew nothing about it, you got to be skeptical. That's the biggest ever. But now that I'm starting to understand more about the thickness of the conglomerate, and that we're dealing with coarse gold, not fine gold here, I'm starting to see. Pardon me?
You're dealing with both. You're dealing with fine gold within the matrix of the conglomerates, and there's a lot of evidence, early days evidence, that there's quite a number of grams per tonne within the matrix in the areas that we've worked out where the Fortescue 1 series outcrops and surface. But the interesting thing about the Purdy's Reward
See?
So there's both types of gold.
Okay. And well, I mean, obviously, if you got a thick, if the gold nuggets are well distributed, it's not good. You're going to start finding big amounts of millions of ounces of gold very rapidly. And so one thing that I was interested, they mentioned that there seems to be the gold nugget distribution is in the lower part of the conglomerate unit, but they didn't really mention how thick that is. Am I asking a question that I shouldn't? Pardon me?
If you look at the news release that came out, the other day, there's some very interesting words in it, right?
Okay.
So the conglomerates that have been drilled with the 12 diamond drill holes to date over an area of 200 metres by 400 metres, principally on 50 by 50 metre hole centres, have gone from 4 to 15 metres thick.
Right.
Right. Where it's 4 metres thick, it means the basal, the mantle of the earth when this conglomerate was laid down, because that's all quite uneven. There's a bit like a little island, and the conglomerates are thinner.
Okay.
There's a very interesting statement in that news release. Is that Novo personnel have noticed that within the conglomerate profile, and they have done some trenching, it says it appears to be getting richer towards the base of the conglomerate.
So gravity's at work.
Means trenches down to basement, right?
Right.
But when you look back at the live stream video that was done at 1:15 in the morning from site at the Denver Gold Conference, where were those nuggets that were all circled in
at
red
surface?
That hammered out the surface.
At surface.
They were at surface.
Yeah.
Now, that raised a whole lot of questions when that video was aired. Is it just a thin veneer sitting on top of the conglomerates?
Right.
Or do those gold nuggety profiles go deeper within the conglomerate sequence? So Novo have stated in that last news release that Novo personnel have noticed that, and obviously with trenching you can put metal detectors down it and pan it and all that sort of stuff. They've made a very specific comment that it appears to be nugget rich through vast sections of the conglomerate profile, and it appears to be richer towards the basal area. So, you're talking 4 metre thick conglomerates with
wow. If you got 4 metre thick conglomerates with healthy distribution of those gold nuggets, it's not a stretch to call this potentially bigger than WITS 1.0.
I'm not going to say that just yet. I think we need to, and I think Quentin will agree. There's a lot of work to be done, and there's two more drill rigs arriving over the course of these next couple of days.
Yes.
And it's all about the big diameter drilling.
Yes. Much like in diamonds, David?
The whole concept and problems of diamonds.
Yeah, you don't want to poke a small hole into and miss the gold, diamonds, because they're so small. And same thing with these nuggets. But that's great that you're getting those big diameter holes in there. So it's not, you're going to be bulk sampling this virtually very quickly with the big holes.
And look, the other thing I like about what Novo released the other day was, they've now found it over quite an extensive area of 200 metres by 400 metres in surface expression, and it's dipping very shallow, which sort of goes to the prognosis that it ties up with that CRA hole some 60 kilometres to the south, where they hit 30 to 50 metres of conglomerates.
But you're also hitting that conglomerate at Mount Oscar, right? That's 20.
No, this is different. This is where you go. So Purdy's dips to the south.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
And Mount Oscar dips to the north. So it's the other side of the basin. So you can imagine an anticline as it rolls over the other side. Now, Mount Oscar is very interesting. I've got to be very careful I don't bring anybody on insider information.
Yeah, I don't want to get you in trouble, David.
No, because the regulators watch everything we say.
Exactly.
Right But the interesting thing about Mount Oscovitz is it's more Witwatersrand style because it's quartz-based and chert-based conglomerates classed within the conglomerate series. Whereas as you go over to Purdy's and go down towards the CRA hole, it's more basalt type mafic clasts. So, and at Mount Oscovitz, we've identified gold-bearing conglomerates that Artemis owns 100% for 14 kilometres that we're doing, and we've really started back to geology 101 on Mount Oscovitz. So it's stream set sampling. We're getting a lot of those results back at the moment, and work out, from first principles and learning what we learned at Purdy's Reward, how Mount Oscovitz relates to the whole concept of, Quentin's theory of VIX 2.0, but it's more South African style because it's more a quartz-based conglomerate as opposed to a basalt-based conglomerate.
Okay, I understand.
It's effectively the other side of the anticline, dipping to the north.
Yeah, I understand.
And we've got conglomerates there that are 85 metres thick, outcropping at surface,
Oh.
where we know that we've got gold in them.
And have you gone and tested across the face of where it outcrops to sort of get an idea of distribution from the top to the bottom of the conglomerate bed?
We're doing that work at the moment.
Okay.
The first phase was a broad-based stream geochem sampling program, and that's taken us about 6 weeks.
Yeah.
All of those samples are in the lab at the moment, and we're getting some back. I can't say more. And then the next phase, once we've got sort of the gold distribution and where it all sort of fits within the conglomerates, then we'll look at sort of trenching and drilling.
Okay.
But there are historic drill holes on Mount Oscovitz.
And what did they hit? And what size of diameter were those holes?
They were drilled in the iron ore days because Mount Oscovitz has 128 million tonnes of JORC-compliant iron ore resources sitting on top of it.
Oh.
And the reason why nobody's really opened up the gold concept at Mount Oscovitz is it's a bit like metal detecting with nails in the ground. And you've got 128 million tonnes of iron ore sitting on top.
It's all going to beep, beep, beep.
And the metal detectors that just go beep, beep, beep. And the nugget sizes there historically have been a lot smaller. So no one's going to go and spend a whole day in the heat with the snakes, to muck around for $20 to $30 worth of small gold nuggets. And every time you put your metal detector on the ground, it goes beep because effectively you've got a piece of iron ore underneath.
Yeah, right. So before we get to close things up, David, was there anything else from that news release? I think I picked out a couple nuggets there, and you've elaborated on it. Was there any other nuggets of information out there that impressed you from the news?
No, the thing that impressed me is that we've now opened up an area of 200 metres by 400 metres. They're obviously quite pervasive gold nuggets at the top of the conglomerate sequence. And, there are now nuggets and gold that is being found as they're digging down towards the basal contact. The next phase really is to get the exploration drilling results and the bulk sampling results out into the system. I think, if that all goes the way that Quentin and ourselves at Artemis are looking at, then, that really starts making the play very real. And the concept is we don't know how long this is. The other thing that really impressed me.
Long as in strike or long as in, hold on, are you saying long as in strike or long as in down dip extension of the sheet?
Both.
Okay.
Both.
Wow.
Both.
I mean, I really have to, I want to, before you go on, David, I want to highlight something. A lot of my audience has followed me over the years because I've been a big high-grade gold sort of bug. And one of the areas in Canada we pay a lot of attention to is in Red Lake, Ontario. And in Red Lake, Ontario, where you get these fabulous grades, often you're looking like for a thin little lens. And those lenses can have 300,000 ounces of super high-grade gold in it. And then you follow the structure and you find another one. And that's how they've made a lot of money. You're not talking about lenses here with potential.
No. This is sheet type conglomerate.
Yeah.
The real issue we're looking at now is how long is it that we can expose.
Well, what I think is important, David,
really
is
just popped its head out, and that's why it's never been found before, because it really just popped its head out. And people have been finding nuggets on Purdy's Reward area along those conglomerates for 50 years, but nobody geologically pieced it together until Artemis looked at it, made an announcement, and said, look, this is looking very Bits Waters Round like, and then Quentin said, look, can I come in and help you develop this thing?
Okay.
Now, one other point I'd like to make, Alan, that goes back to probably 10 minutes ago. Novo will be our 50-50 partner when they spend the money to earn their 50%. Right now, and I doubt that won't happen, but right now, Purdy's Reward, where all the work is happening, is 100% owned by Artemis.
Okay, and how much work does Novo have to do in order to earn their 50?
Okay, the joint venture says that they spend $2 million within 2 years on conglomerate gold within the Artemis package to earn their 50%, and then we can start moving forward with respect to definitive joint venture agreements. Now, when I spoke to Quentin the other day, I think that's only going to be probably a month and a half away, and then we'll be paying 50-50.
Oh, wow, yeah, right. They're going to be
But at
cranking
that point, they would have earned their 50%.
Right. So, okay, so they're earning in. Okay, now one other thing.
And right now, Artemis owns 100%. Now, we have binding agreements that says that when they spend the money, we'll happily give them 50% and we'll go toe for toe with them on expenditure, because Artemis is not in the mood to dilute. And I've got institutional support, just like Novo have, to fast track this whole program as quickly as we can get. The other thing that's very important, I think, for your listeners, is there was a lot of original rhetoric about, Comet Well 7 kilometres and Purdy's is only 1.5 kilometres. The conglomerate sequence at Purdy's runs for, I reckon, about 6 kilometres within the licence. It's already fully approved.
Wow. So nothing's holding you back there. It's go, go, go.
Correct. So there is so much work to be done on following the lower Fortescue 1 unit, a lot of which is hidden underneath the Mount Rowe basalts and stuff.
That on its own would almost be a district scale project in a lot of other camps. You're talking 6 kilometres of strike there.
And there's a lot of work to be done whilst Novo work through their processes of getting Comet Well approved and some of their other licenses approved. But we also have conglomerate gold sitting on top, almost like the overburden, the waste, at Money, which is Australia's largest platinum deposit.
Okay.
It's got 1.4 million ounces of palladium and 900,000 ounces of platinum drilled up there in 4 PGEs. But the conglomerate sequence sits over the top of Money.
Oh.
So we're going to start working with Novo, because it runs all the way from Purdy's all the way down through Comet Well, down the bottom of our Radio Hill plant, which I think is very key to unlocking the reality of putting Purdy's and Comet Well and all that whole play into production very quickly, because it's a fully permitted plant. And for $5 million, I can have that plant switched on with a full gold circuit.
Wow.
It's fully permitted, everything. So
for how much tonnage per day?
Think about the scenario, Alan, that let's just say that Quentin and ourselves prove up a resource within 3 to 6 months, right?
Yeah.
We then convert the exploration license at Purdy's into a quarry permit, and we truck it 8 kilometres.
And you start bulk sampling.
And we could do 500,000 tonne a year through that plant, fully permitted.
Wow.
We could theoretically, within 6 to 9 months, be producing on a 50-50 basis, if the numbers all stack up, gold from Purdy's Reward.
Because the outcrop's there and you're ready to go.
I mean, the strip ratio would be 1 to 2.
Okay, so
even though it dips at 10 degrees, the hill dips at 10 degrees as well.
Yeah.
There is virtually no strip ratio all the way down the side of the hill.
Wow. Okay, so the last thing I want to get into, David, is Novo's caught the market's attention. They become a darling. It now has over $1 billion valuation. At first, I thought it was a little bit crazy.
More than that, $8 fully diluted, got nearly 200 million shares. And it's not long.
Okay, so $1.5 billion.
$6, that's Clinton. I've got to give them another 84 million.
So that's $1.5 billion valuation. When I first started seeing it, I thought, this is crazy. This has got to be all stock promotion. As I'm learning more about the conglomerate bed, and I'm getting more and more excited. Now, you know, I'm trying to get my audience in, you know, e-ticket into this lottery. And right now, you've got 50% of the project. You guys have a lot of various different projects, plus the plan. And your valuation, what's your valuation these days?
160 million.
160 million.
With
So,
no debt, 16 million in the bank.
So you're getting 10.
Novo shares worth $30 million.
You're getting 10% of the valuation that Novo has. Plus, you own 4 million shares in Novo. Well, I think I'm going to be.
I think the reason for that, Alan, is Australians don't believe. I mean, as I was saying to some of the institutions in Sydney and Melbourne last week, I said, the funny thing is, there must be 50 global analysts and mining journalists and writers who have been to Purdy's Reward. How many Australian analysts or institutions have been to Purdy's Reward in the last 6 months? And the answer is 0.
Really?
In fact, the first Australian analyst doesn't even arrive for another week and a half.
Wow.
And I find that extraordinary that, the Australians, and I think it's about, well, if we didn't find it, we're not interested, and it can't be real. And, I've been very cautious as well, because I'm a first-class mine manager, got a first-class mine manager stick to the WA, and, I'm a scientist, I want to see the results. And Quentin's working on his thing, and he's a very good scientist. He's had some huge global successes, particularly at Fosterville.
I've been watching Quentin for a long time. I've been watching him for a long time.
Then the other thing I'd like to sort of say to your audience is that, people are reluctant to go and trade the ASX, but I'm seeing most of the buying that's coming into the ASX now is actually been coming from American and European sort of fund managers.
Yeah, you know what?
Also trade on the
That isn't.
on the OTC now.
In the old days, that was more of an issue than it is now. They've got online accounts. My audience is mostly Canadian, US, and parts of Europe. But they won't have any problems finding it, just like they don't have any problems.
But we also trade on the OTC now, and it's very active. I mean, we do a couple of million shares a day.
Oh, what's your symbol on the what's the symbol on the OTC, David?
ARTTF. We're trading right now at 24 US cents, and I think the volume already is probably over 1 million shares.
Okay, so
that went live about a month ago. Let's
get people how they can find you. First of all, your website is artemisresources.com.au. Artemis is spelled ARTEMIS resources.com.au. On the Australian Stock Exchange, the stock symbol is ARV. It might be easier for our folks listening and watching from Canada and the US to use the OTC symbol, which is ARTTF. David, I'm becoming very bullish on this play. I'm a high-grade gold kind of bug, and I'm really excited about the potential for size and this to be a lot of winners coming out of this. I want to let you know, as well as those that come to this video from your audience, John Kaiser and I are planning some exciting new shows. In the past, when the market was really bad, we had these zombie search and rescue mission shows. And what was great about those zombie stocks that we went out and found is that John has these great tools on his website at Kaiser Research Online. And those will help people understand this whole area of play. And so we're going to use the same format as we did with the zombies, but this is going to be all about WITS 2.0 now. because of what I'm seeing with the early drills. And so I'm going to want you on more in the future too, David. And I really want to say thank you from my audience for you spending time here to get insights into. I'm really pumped about your processing plant, your involvement with the whole play.
The processing plant is the key. To me, the processing plant is the key that unlocks reality far more quickly than people can understand. It's a full nickel, copper, cobalt plant, and to refurbish that with a full brand new gold recovery circuit at 500,000 to 600,000 tons a year processing is $5 million. And I already have banks that will lend me that money as opposed to raising equity to do it.
Well, you know why?
That plant.
You know why that impresses me?
From Artemis' perspective, we have one of the highest grade cobalt deposits in Australia that we're working on at Carlo Castle, which we own 100%.
That plant,
it's only 20 kilometres away.
That part of the story, David, really impresses me because the difference between finding diamonds in Canada and South Africa is in Canada, you got to go through a bunch of work, let's say 25 to $50 million worth of work to get to the point where you can do a bulk sample. Then you have to make a call on building a mine based on an economic evaluation that's based on a fairly small bulk sample. In South Africa, when you find a diamond-bearing kimberlite, you back the truck up, you take 1,000 samples, you process it. If that looks good, you run 5,000 tons, then 10,000 tons, and pretty soon you have a diamond mine if everything looks good. You guys have the potential and the need, by the way, to be able to start moving into bulk sampling very quickly. And to me, the numbers that come out of that bulk sampling effort are going to be a lot more important than if you spent 30 or 40 million dollars doing all these economic evaluations.
No, absolutely. I mean, the real key here is prove up a couple of 100,000 tons as quickly as we can, and then go fast track to how do we get it into that Radio Hill plant yesterday, so that we're actually producing tons and grade that actually
real numbers, David.
What we've been looking at.
You're producing real numbers, not a report that's sort of hopeful numbers. Correct?
And because Novo's well funded and we're well funded, I mean, the whole concept of a BFS goes out the door. We just need to be comfortable with our own numbers, because the capital cost to start this project up, if that's the way it goes, is probably only $10 million.
Wow.
We don't need banks.
Wow. Wow. So no need to do a bankable fees. Just go right to bulk.
I don't need to do a bankable feasibility study. I don't need a bank to fund my plant. I already own one. And I've said to Novo, I'm more than happy for both of us to look at how do we use that wonderful asset that's 8 to 10 kilometres down a road that we can open up Purdy's Reward. And Quentin and I are talking about options on that as well at the moment, on how do we use that plant to take this from concept to past concept to reality. And that Radio Hill plant unlocks everything.
I think so. It's a crucial key that, you know, has got me really excited and glad, by the way, that I recently picked Artemis. I think if anyone believes this is a real area, this is real, and the future is bright, you guys are a real cheap ticket into the play. And I'm glad I picked you, and I'm really happy you've come on, David. I'm going to wrap things up, but I think you've given my audience a lot to think about.
Yeah, pleasure, Alan. Anytime you want to have a chat. But, yeah, I'm going to be careful what I say, because the ASX regulators are very strict. So
yeah,
I'll say what I can.
I'm careful as well too, David. I don't want to get you in trouble. I said I'm careful as well, David, and I don't want to get you in any trouble.
Pleasure.
I'm going to close things off, David.
Is this going live now?
It's live right now, David. We're live and interactive, man. This is the big internet out there.
There we go. Hello, everybody in North America and wherever.
Exactly. Okay, David, I'm going to close the show off. If you could just hold on a minute, I'll close the show off, and then we'll have a brief chat afterwards. Everybody, I'm getting more and more bullish on this Aussie 2.0 gold rush play at Pilbara, Creighton, places like Purdy's Reward, with places, Novo being one of the leaders. But man, I'm really impressed with what David had to say today, because they've got not only do they have great ground there, but that plant, to me, them being able to go into and test this thing with actual real numbers, pumping material through there, recovering gold, seeing what it comes out like, that is going to fast track this project. And as he said, you know, they don't need to really look for bankable feasibilities to get money to start producing. So this Artemis is a really, if you're bullish on the Novo gold story, Artemis is really undervalued, and I want you folks to check it out and check their website out. Do your homework on Artemis. I think you're going to be hearing a lot more about them on our upcoming shows with John Kaiser. On that note, I'm going to remind you that these shows are for information purposes only. Before making any investment decisions, it's important for you to speak with your financial advisors. I'm going to say on behalf of the audience to say thank you to David again, because I think he really opened, there was some nuggets of gold there of wisdom. And so check them out. Check out all my sponsors. They make these shows possible. And on that note, I'm going to say you folks have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.